No, I wore a different hat. But hopefully you like that one as well.
Okay.
Family has asked us to announce that following this service, interment will take place at Mount Olive Cemetery, after which the family will be returning to Ryan and Brenda's home at 10391, that's 10391 Maryland Street, which you will either find listed under Aurora, or you will find, did you want to put those up? No, please, go ahead. No problem. No, don't be sorry, that's fine. Not a problem. As we were saying, they will be returning to Ryan and Brenda's home at 10391 Maryland, which is officially Reminderville, but you will find under an Aurora zip code 44202. Your Waze will find it either way, if you put it down as Aurora or if you put it down as Reminderville. Contributions are recommended to the American Cancer Society. Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu, our God and God of our ancestors, Master of mercy, healer of broken heart, let neither death or sorrow have dominion over us. Grant comfort, strength, and consolation to those who mourn Bernice. May they always cherish what was imperishable in her life. Bless her family and her loved ones with peace, that they may serve you with all their heart. May Bernice's memory inspire them to deeds of loving kindness and to live as she would have. B'nomal we say, Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam dayan ha'emet. Praised are you, Adonai, the righteous judge. And the prophet Job has taught us, Adonai natan, Adonai lakach, yehi shem Adonai mevorach. God has given, but now taken away. And still we praise God's name. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echzal, binotesha yalbitzeni al mei menuchot yenahaleni, nafshi yeshovev yanchileni v'ma'ag le'tzedek lema'an shemo. God is our shepherd, we shall not want. God causes us to lie down in green pastures. God leads us beside still waters and restores our soul. God guides us on the right paths for the sake of the divine name. And even when, as at this moment, we walk in the valley of the shadow of death, we fear no evil. You, God, are with us. Your rod and staff comfort us. You prepare a table before us, even in the presence of our enemies. You anoint our heads with oil, and our cup overflows. Ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai, v'shavti b'veit Adonai l'orech yamim. Surely goodness and mercy will follow us all of the days of our lives, and we will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Shilamalot esaynai el heharim, me'ayin yavo Ezri me'em Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz. Turn our eyes to the mountains. What is the source of our help? Our help comes from God, who is the maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way, and your guardian will not slumber. The guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is our protection, a shade at our right hand. The sun will not harm us by day, nor the moon by night. Adonai will protect us from all harm and watch over our coming and going, now and forever. Bernice C. Krock, daughter of Alice and Louis, is missed and mourned by her children, Barbara, Sheila, and Thomas, by her grandchildren, Josh and Melinda, Evan, Missy, and Jake, Ryan and Brenda, her sister-in-law, Anne. She was preceded in death by her parents, Louis and Alice, by her husband, Jack, her son, Howard, and her grandson, Sean. Jeffrey will now will now share his thoughts about his grandmother. Did we lose him? Oh, okay. You're up.
Trying to do some work back there. All right. Thank you all for coming, especially on a day like this. I'm sure Grandma would always say on days like this, we would always pick her up, and she would say that she's getting, I'm trying to remember the quote, she would be getting chicken in her young age. So that would be one of her fun quotes for this kind of weather. So I've done a lot of reflecting about, my grandma these past few weeks, specifically this week. And it's definitely an interesting time. Whenever my grandma's birthday would come around, she would always say that she was turning 29. And, she was a young-looking 29. Ironically, I'm 29 now. So when I was younger and she would tell me she was 29, I would actually really believe her. I would be like, that's what 29 looks like. And I would think, wow, time must fly if she's only 29 and I'm like 6. I've only got 23 years. But even now, I believe the same thing, that time really kind of moves quickly. But more and more as I've been reflecting, I've reflected how good of a friend that Grandma was to me and to the family. And I kind of came up with some bullet points of how good of a friend she was and kind of what friends do for each other. For example, they go to lunch together. One of my early memories was when I had an early release from school at kindergarten, and she took me to McDonald's, and she got a kids meal, and I got a kids meal, and I was really excited about that. Number one, McDonald's wasn't really frequently on the menu, but number two, I was like, oh, she's getting kids menu, I'm getting kids menu, I'm a big kid now, so that means that I'm big. Little would I know that she would continue to order kids meals for the duration of whenever she went to McDonald's in the future. So she continued to get that, so that was nice. Friends also go to dinner together. I mean, we're going to meals. So our family would go out every Saturday for kind of just family hangout time. We would go up, pick her up. We'd go to dinner at random restaurants, and it would be great. Even the times when we would go to Hometown Buffet, and she would just be watching me eat for the most part as time went on, or me and my brother eating. But she would also have some fine commentary on the clientele at Hometown Buffet, saying that they were relatively large people there that were. And she couldn't believe how large they were, But she would, of course, be very chalant in the way that she would approach this, and she would be like, I can't believe that. But, Grandma's she wouldn't just say that to somebody. She's a lot nicer than that. Afterwards, we would go hang out at the mall. So you hang out at the mall with your friends occasionally. So after Saturday dinners, we'd go to clothing stores, and we would just go with the family. We'd just, she would be looking to expand her eclectic collection of colorful clothes. Meanwhile, we would be walking down the mall, usually Richmond Mall, and she would be there with my mom and eye-rolling when my dad, her son, would be going over and trying to yank me and my brother and take us to Victoria's Secret. They would both be there, so that was definitely a good time. Friends also take vacations together. She would accompany us to Amish country, and she would take us. We would take her to Pennsylvania, just random places in Pennsylvania. And it's funny. We were talking yesterday. we were just she would just invite herself, and we would be okay with it. Just going taking a road trip, which was real nice. But the big parts of those vacations that really mean a lot to me are the picnics. Now I think that it was very serene, even if they were just rest stops on the side, very serene, and I really enjoyed those. Friends also talk about different experiences. They share each other's worlds. With her, she would be always talking about gambling, Maj with friends, volunteering, stealing other people's money. Um, with me, it would be working, bowling, studying. My brother would probably be very similar. Being there for each other. Now, this one's obviously this could be a lot of things, but for me, it meant she was there for my high school graduation. She was there for any of the plays that I did, my college graduation. And for her, it would be, we would go to temple with her. We would help her move her many number of coats that she had and clothing. Again, her wardrobe was quite vast and nice and warm, just like her. So another one that I didn't really expect was we enjoyed the college experience with each other. And by that, I mean she came out to Cornell with my brother for a visit, and took really, yes, it was quite the trip. There were twice. There were two trips. One she took just with my brother, and she was able to make these really long walks. My college is, a lot of the buildings are few and far in between. It's very large for what it is, not very concentrated, but she was able to make these really long walks. And to be perfectly honest, at that point, I could say that maybe that's like 8 or 9 years ago, she was doing better than a lot of students that I knew with the walks, to be perfectly honest. So she was a very strong woman. She also was there for my graduation at Cornell with my brother and his wife, which was also a great time. One of my fond memories of that was, of course, when we were going back to my apartment because we were staying there, and she asked if there was ice cream. And mind you, this is about 10:30 at night, and I said, "No, I'm sorry, Grandma, there's no ice cream." She just kind of gave me a look, and I'm like, "Yeah, we can get some ice cream if you want." I kind of said it offhandedly, not really expecting, her to be like, "Yeah, let's go get ice cream." And so, like, I turn around and she's got her coat on and she's ready to go. So we pull a 10:30 Wegmans trip, which is a common grocery store in Ithaca, New York, East Coast. So that was a fond memory. We got some mint chocolate chips, some Neapolitan. Yeah, and our freezer did not work. So she had ice cream that night, but we had soup the morning after. So that was great. But she still had it. So she was all about that ice cream. You also, with your friends, you always talk about, at least with me, you talk about girls and dating. And some of the times that I remember this vividly would be when we would take a drive home from my house after our barbecues. We'd have like July 4th barbecues or barbecues for just random reasons, no reason. And she would just ask me about my dating life and whatnot. And she'd say, "Hey, you dating any girls?" I'm like, "Yeah, here and there, Grandma." And she's just like, "Yeah, it's okay to date multiple girls at the same time, because I used to date multiple men at the same time." And I was taken aback by that, but she was she's very open about that. She's just told me to keep an open eye, and I definitely listen. So friends also keep in touch. So Grandma would each year make a phone call or a card or both for my birthday. For all of our birthdays, you would always kind of expect it. We always kind of wait to hear from her, and a call was always there. And last year, she didn't break that tradition for sure, so it was very nice to hear her voice. And then finally, friends also teach each other something new. Now, I don't know what I taught her, to be perfectly honest, but I know that she taught me a lot of things, like communication being a two-way street. Family time can kind of mean anything, from going to a wedding, to a college graduation, to eating at a truck stop in the middle of Ohio or nowhere really. as long as there's family, that's all that matters. A sense of humor she also taught me. While my dad gave me the timing and more of the offensive tools, if you will, to the tools to dish it out, she taught me how to take a joke, honestly. She was more of, she wasn't entirely always serious all the time. And she'd be able to take a joke, and she would just kind of like shake her head and just kind of laugh it off. You know, with the holiday times, you're correct. My family sometimes became merciless at sometimes, but specifically holiday times when the whole family would just be busting jokes into her, whether it's, again, with regards to a wardrobe, the food, or her vast teddy bear collection. She would just shake her head, smile, and laugh. So, which is what I hope she's doing now as she's listening to this. But the last thing that I think that she taught me was actually this week. She taught me to embrace how lucky I am to have the family that I have now. How lucky I was to have her there all those times. And then how lucky I am to be able to say goodbye and have this moment with all of you. And as I conclude my thoughts and memories, I think to myself how lucky I would be to honor her legacy by living life as wonderfully as she did. And with this, I'm going to finish with a quote from one of my favorite books. "It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye." I love you, Grandma.
I wrote a poem for my mom. It came to me last night. I've got candy in my mouth now, but most people who knew me knew my mother drove me crazy. She did. She drove me out of my mind because she complained a lot to me. I didn't know that she was really very happy where she was and what she was doing, but she never wanted me to know that for some reason. And so I would get upset with her, but then I noticed in the last few weeks I kind of got a better understanding of her and what she was really like. And I wrote this poem for her. I hope I get the meter right. I'm not sure if I will. Blue eyes brightly shining, hair so snowy white. Pink lips are gently smiling at all of life's delights. A heart so warm and gentle, a will so full of might. A love that has no end, a strength that would never bend. This is how I see my mother, forever in my mind. She will forever live in memory as a mom that truly was one of a kind. That's all I have to say. I love you, Mom.
Bernice was 92 years old, just about a month short of being 93. As you all know, she was a good, strong lady. She could be stubborn. She was no pushover. She was a force to be reckoned with and faced a lot in her life. She liked the sunlight, didn't like the gloom or the darkness. And so it's not surprising that she was a lady of glitz and bling. She always had red nail polish and had that bright pink lipstick that she insisted on kissing you with, and you could never get rid of it. She thought that no one knew where she kept her cigarettes, but everyone did, and they never let on. As you heard, she was lucky. She would go to the casino and she'd be the only one in the group to make money. She would win at the keno. She always bought lottery tickets with her kids' birthdays. And she always bought Megabucks tickets until it went up to $2. She was a collector. Hundreds of teddy bears. The teddy bears, if they were to be carried around, had to have their heads out of the bag so they could breathe. And she had car seats for them in the back of her car. And after a car accident, all she was worried about was getting her teddy bears back. She collected porcelain dolls, bone china. She especially loved her gold tea service, and salt and pepper shakers of every imaginable type. She was an ardent mahjong player. She would remember hands on cards that had long been gone in the past, and apparently people let her win at those hands even though the cards had changed. But you always had to tap the cards, the tiles, correctly when you were playing, or she would get very, very upset. She was a coffee drinker. And in the last few years, the assisted living, the staff was kind of amazed at how a woman of her age could maintain proper hydration on nothing but 3 cups of coffee a day. But it always had just the right amount of milk or cream in it. If you were putting in too much, she'd put her hand over the cup. It had to be served at the right time during dinner, and she had to finish it before you freshened up the cup. It had to be a whole cup of fresh coffee. She loved to sit on the porch, especially in Worcester, and watch nature, but not too closely. She was not happy, for example, of being in the bird aviary section of a zoo where the birds might actually come up to her. She observed the dietary laws. When she was able and before our congregation moved, she was a regular at Emmanuel. She was an ardent volunteer for the Jewish War Veterans, the Ladies Auxiliary, the Veterans Hospital, at Menorah Park for over 20 years, in the Mayfield Heights schools. She collected for the March of Dimes and for the Heart Association, among others. Bernice was born in Hartford, Connecticut, but moved to Cleveland as a child. Her family wound up on 105th Street. She graduated from Glenville High School. Her father worked at a dry cleaner. Her parents really never had much money. Bernice eventually wound up working herself at the University Heights Buildings Department, and she was very well known in the community. For her, family was everything. Her parents needed things, and she always got it for them. She met Jack in 1951, and they married in 52. His career was in the Postal Service. They traveled together, and of course, as you all know, he was taken too soon. She raised her family in Cleveland Heights. She made a nice home. Hers was the home where she loved to host. Friends were always invited. Holidays were always a big deal, and every relative was included, including the old bachelor who lived down the street, who wasn't a relative, but he just happened to be there. Their home was probably the smallest home in the family, but somehow it was Bernice who always had the family over for events and for holidays, and there was always enough room for everybody. The only problem is she wasn't big on drinking, and she didn't like people to drink because she was afraid that if the neighbors saw beer cans or liquor bottles in her trash, that they would think she was drunk, which of course she was not. She loved her children very much, taught them how to manage their budgets and be careful with money. She could be, as you heard, a little bit trying, but everybody did it her way. Thomas, her son-in-law, remembers, as we heard, taking her everywhere. Especially her favorite was the Greenleaf restaurant in Worcester. And she always asked him, "Is Lowe's busy? How's it doing?" She loved her grandchildren, was proud of everything that they did, and attended all of their events. The air shows, where she worked as a volunteer to raise money for Concern for Children. And you heard about the dining and meals in McDonald's, and of course the visits to California. Bernice was pretty independent until 2014. She moved to Worcester to assisted living. She befriended Sheila's friends. She blew everyone away at the bingo at the Brookdale place where she was. And she continued to kiss everybody with that pink lipstick. The last few months were unfortunately a time of decline. She knew that it was time, perhaps, as her memory faded and as that spark started to fade away. But she was a wonderful, indomitable spirit that will live on with the rest of you, will on with everyone who was blessed at knowing her. And maybe every once in a while, when the light hits you just right in the mirror, you'll see a little remnant of that pink lipstick. Zecher Tzadik Livracha. May the memory of the righteous indeed be a blessing. Please rise. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen B'Maromim, Hamitzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Ashchina, B'Malot Kedoshim U'Tohorim, Kezo HaHarakia Mazhirin, Et Nishmat Achotenu Shehalcha Le'olama, B'Gan Eden Tiyeh Menuchata, Ana Bal HaRachamim, Hasdireha B'Seiter Knafecha Le'olamim, Utzro B'Tzoa Chaim Et Nishmata, Adonai Hu Nachlata, V'Tanuach B'Shalom Al Mishkava, V'Nomar, Amen. Exalted and compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the soul of Bernice Krock, daughter of Alice and Louis. She has now gone to her eternal home. Master of mercy, may she find perfect peace in your sheltering embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. She now rests in peace, and we say, Amen. You may be seated.